it does seem, unfortunately, and often does in this instance, that as soon as one gap is plugged, it's not long before another issue seems to be raised. But that is the nature of cybersecurity. I refer to it anecdotally as the whack-a-mole syndrome, where as soon as you knock one mole's head down, there's another one ready to pop up somewhere. And that's the way it is. It's constant improvement, it's constant development, because rest assured, the criminal world out there will be making as much efforts, if not more, to try and identify weaknesses and exploit those weaknesses. So I'm not surprised the companies responded, and they do seem to be taking action.
You described it as the time as a lifeline, particularly to small and medium enterprises. And why would you want to sort of set that lifeline when business had changed so dramatically because of the coronavirus lockdown? Is it still your view, with the latest security updates, that Zoom and other conferencing facilities are worth it, despite the inherent risks because of the lifeline that they offer?
From a personal perspective, it is, because I do see that if they haven't got these facilities, a lot of companies at the moment just would not be able to function. So there is very little choice. I still think it comes down to whichever product you choose to use is then taking the next steps to make sure you are implementing as much security as possible to minimize any risk of using that particular product. And it's basic steps, as I said before, that are quite often the most effective. And probably in addition to all that, it's being conscious about the information that is being shared on these calls. And if you are planning to discuss something that is of such a confidential or sensitive nature, then it's probably wise to have a rethink and maybe look for an alternative means to transmit that information.
And is there any such thing as a completely secure way of communicating to colleagues who are all sitting remotely in their home offices? Is the fact that people are dispersed over such a kind of wide area in itself problematic? And should the really kind of, if you like, the top secret company stuff wait until people are all together in the same room once again and that social distancing is over, whenever that happens to be?
Yes, hopefully sooner rather than later. But it's a very difficult question, and it's always a balance of weighing up the risk of the information being shared versus the potential consequences if anything is leaked or identified and hacked. So it's a difficult situation, and probably comes down to the risk appetite and the risk assessment on an individual basis as to what's being shared. But I guess there will be circumstances when there is no or little alternative for companies if they want to carry on in business.
And I guess that risk appetite, as you describe it, is just down to an individual company, somebody in the defence sector or in an infrastructure business that was critical to the nation, if you like, are going to be much less have much less of an appetite for risk, are going to be much more risk averse than a small company with 1 or 2 employees that's selling widgets that loads of other people are selling as well, so to speak.
Yes, absolutely. Almost on an individual basis. And certainly Zoom, whilst it's been focused on at the moment in terms of sort of confidential areas and the potential for breach, I also see it's used a lot for more social activities and for schools and for training, etc. So there's a lot of probably areas where Zoom is being used that are perfectly safe and will cause little damage if anything did happen to be leaked.
Yes, if somebody crashes into your Zoom family quiz night, no harm done. But if somebody crashed into a Zoom meeting that was discussing trade secrets or state secrets, well, then it would be problematic. So finally, just run through briefly that sensible advice. You, I think last time, likened it to, if you invited people into your home, would you leave your bank details on the kitchen table? The practical things that people can do to secure themselves at this strange time.
Exactly. It's basic steps. And the first sort of premise I would say is think about it as a real world meeting. So if you're inviting people into your home for a meeting, you would want to verify their identity. So you can send out through Zoom specific meeting invitation with a meeting ID code. You can make sure that's different for every meeting, so you're not repeating the same code. You can have a waiting room to almost vet your meeting attendees before they're allowed into the main boardroom. once inside and you know that you've got the correct people in the meeting, you can lock the door, so you can close the meeting door. So again, you've got control and prevent anybody else coming in. Be aware of what maybe, if you're on video camera, what may be showing in the background. So that comes back down to if you were in the real room, you wouldn't leave confidential, sensitive, or maybe personal information for all to see. And you can see the same as
that I've changed the backdrop.
I do, and you notice I'm now practicing what I preach, and we've gone to the corporate background. Yours now, Richard, is absolutely perfect. So you're giving no secrets away whatsoever.
Yes, last time it was the books with the family pictures, wasn't it? And you were slightly concerned that somebody might take advantage even of that kind of level of detail.
It can be. That sort of information can be used in certain circumstances for a later social engineering attack. So trying to find out areas that are of interest to you, maybe hobbies, it may be business, anything that a potential attacker could use to gain your confidence and trick you in a later time to provide information that they may be used for criminal purposes. So again, it's little steps like you've done there. So you've got a blank background, check who's in the meeting, lock the door when the meeting starts, and at the end of the meeting, make sure everybody's left and they're not still hiding under the boardroom table to jump out when you've gone. So little steps like that, and you will go a long way to making yourself secure.